Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Greater Houston Partnership's 2018 State of the Port. Please welcome the President and CEO of the Greater Houston Partnership, Bob Harvey.
All right. Good afternoon. If you would take your seats, please. Thank you for taking your seats. We'll get started as soon as you're seated. Got a great crowd. All right, I see the last few taking their seats. All right, if I could have your attention, we'll get started. So let me start by saying good afternoon. What a fantastic day this is in Houston. It's been wonderful to have the great weather recently. I'm Bob Harvey, as was indicated. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Houston Partnership, and welcome to the 2018 State of the Port. And I'm so honored to be here with you all today, but we're going to celebrate the 6-year tenure, we're almost to the 6th-year anniversary, of Janice Longoria as she participates in her final State of the Port event as chairman of Port Houston. So we look forward to hearing from Janice, and we also look forward to hearing from Port Houston Executive Director Roger Gunther. And from the two of them, we'll hear about what's coming forward at the port. Now, I don't need to tell this group, you're all here today, but the Port of Houston is that singular asset around which so much of the Houston economy revolves and depends. It has a huge impact locally. We think it impacts and is responsible for 1 million jobs if you look out beyond the region, and almost $265 billion of economic impact across the state of Texas. So the port is just foundational to the Houston economy, the Texas economy, and in fact, increasingly the entire Midwest of the U.S. Now, you probably know one stat, because we've said it so many times. For 25 years, Port Houston has ranked as the #1 U.S. port in terms of foreign tonnage. How many times have you heard that? 25 years, #1 port in terms of foreign tonnage. And more recently, there's been a real resurgence in the amount of liquid bulk product moving out of, really in and out of the port. But you know, with a lot of product today, crude, refined product, ethane moving out of the port, liquid products are surging. And we estimate that there's been about a 60% increase in liquid bulk movement across the port since just last year, 2017. Now, the port ships all over the world. We exported last year to 212 countries around the world, positioning Houston not only as a gateway to the Americas, but really a gateway to the entire globe. Now, we've also seen, and we'll probably hear more today, about the phenomenal increase in container volume that has occurred at the port over the last several years. Roger, you may correct me, but I understand that we're up year to year, 18 to 17, about 10% in container volume. So every year we were able to report additional growth in container traffic. So I attribute this, and in this moment, we'll attribute this to Janice's incredible leadership as chairman, but I'll also recognize that there's a broader port commission and a great staff involved in that same success. Now, Janice has built a strong foundation, and I'm sure the port will continue to move forward. Now, before we break for lunch, I'd like to acknowledge our generous sponsors that made today's event possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. Your generous support is essential to the success of the Greater Houston Partnership and our mission of making Houston greater. Please join us in thanking today's sponsors. Today's State of the Port waterway sponsor is Port Houston. Today's maritime sponsors are AT&T, BB&T, Dannenbaum Engineering Corporation. Our cargo level sponsors are AECOM, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas, Bracewell LLP, Centerpoint Energy, Haynes & Boone LLP, Houston Pilots, Intercontinental Terminal Company LLC, Kinder Morgan, Moffitt and Nickel, North Houston Economic Development Center at Lone Star College, Targa Resources Incorporated, Texas Medical Center. Also, thanks to our staging partner, JSAV, and our production partner, Vision. The Greater Houston Partnership would like to express our appreciation to the members of Houston's Consular Corps for their work to establish positive foreign relations between the Houston region and their respective countries. Their leadership is invaluable to building and maintaining the region's key international relationships. The Greater Houston Partnership would also like to acknowledge our elected officials, the men and women who represent Houston at the local, state, and federal level for their dedication and commitment to our region. Please join us in thanking all of our sponsors, members of the Consular Corps, and our elected officials.
Well, thank you again to our sponsors. I'd like to recognize next the members of the Port Commission. And so I will ask the Port Commissioners to stand as I read your names and remain standing, and then we'll applaud for you as a group at the end. So let's start. Commissioner Theldon Branch, Commissioner Dean Corgi, Commissioner Stephen Don Carlos, Commissioner Clyde Fitzgerald, Commissioner John Kennedy, and Commissioner Roy Meese. Everyone, thank you. I'd also like to recognize the elected officials that are here. And let me start with State Representative Dennis Paul. Dennis, would you stand and let us, thank you. Thanks for being here. Two county officials I know are here, Harris County Commissioner Jack Cagle and Harris County District Clerk Chris Daniel. Both of you here, right? We have a number of city mayors that are here. LaPorte, would all of you stand as I read your name and remain standing? LaPorte Mayor Louis Rigby, Morgan's Point Mayor Michelle Bechtel, Pasadena Mayor Jeff Wagner, and Sugar Land Mayor Joe Zimmerman. All of you here? Great, thank you. And we have a number of Houston City Council members, so again, if you would stand as I read your name, remain standing. Houston Vice Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Davis, Houston Council Member Dave Martin, Houston Council Member David Robinson, Houston Council Member Jack Christie, Baytown Council Member Brandon Capetillo. And I believe I'll stop there. Thank you all for being here. Now, this is that moment between the election and the inauguration day where we also get to do something rather fun, which is to recognize some of our newly elected officials. And it's a special opportunity for me to recognize our new Harris County Judge, Lena Hidalgo. Judge-elect Lena Hidalgo, would you stand? Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm looking around the room in case anyone has slipped in here at the last minute. All right. So, I would like to take a moment, particularly at this event, to recognize our Consular Corps for the tremendous value they add to this community in connecting us to countries around the world. So will all the members of the Houston Consular Corps stand and let us recognize you as a group? Consular Corps members, I know some of you are here. There we are. Thank you, gentlemen. And as we near the end of the calendar year, I'd like to recognize the members of the board of the Greater Houston Partnership. And so would all the members of the Greater Houston Partnership board and or executive committee please stand and let us recognize you. Thank you. Roland. All right. So now I'll invite you to enjoy your lunch, and the program will resume in about 25 minutes. Thank you very much. And I'll start by acknowledging a couple of elected officials that we missed earlier, and I do want to give each of them the chance to stand when I give their name and be recognized. So first, State Representative Anna Hernandez. Anna, I know you're here. Anna, I should say. Thank you. Thank you. And as we did before, recognizing some newly elected officials, I want to recognize Harris County Commissioner-elect for Precinct 2, Adrian Garcia. Adrian, you're here? There he is. Thank you. Thanks to all of you for being here. Now, just in a moment, we'll engage in a fireside chat with Janice, and we'll delve a bit more deeply into what's happening at and within the port. But first, I'd like to introduce Roger Gunther. Roger is the Executive Director of Port Houston, and he's going to deliver the 2018 State of the Port Address. Now, Roger is a native of Baytown. He's always been close to the ship channel in the Port of Houston. He was named Executive Director of Port Houston in 2014, but first joined the authority, I'll say way back, Roger, way back in 1988. Now, Roger's 30 years of experience has shaped the way the authority operates today in many, many ways, but including the container and cargo operations, which have changed completely in those years, the management of capital projects, facility and asset maintenance, real estate management, all of these have been handled better and well under Roger's leadership. He also executed the master planning of the Bayport Container Terminal, the redevelopment of the existing Barber's Cut Terminal, and has overseen the procurement of all the container handling cranes and equipment that you've read about of late. He's not only the leader of Port Houston, but also a leader for ports across all of Texas, serving as president of the Texas Ports Association. Roger, somehow in my notes, we didn't include the most important part. Please welcome to the stage another Texas Aggie, Roger Gunther.
All right, thanks, Bob. And I think after Saturday night, I've earned the right to put on this maroon tie. It has been a long time, Bob, but I still feel young. But I'm proud to be able to talk about the port today, and we've heard over and over again, and Bob said it even earlier today, about the Port of Houston in this upper 25-mile stretch of the Houston Ship Channel is the economic engine for not only our region, but for the state and the nation. And that certainly holds true today more than I think that it ever has. Our greater port and the petrochemical complex that it serves is served by the busiest waterway in the nation. And this waterway, this Houston Ship Channel, is truly a gift to all of us in this room from the visionary leaders of more than a century ago. So as many ports boast of their significance, and they are, but every port in the nation is first in something. I tell people these 200 plus facilities up and down the Houston Ship Channel are actually first in something that means something. We're the #1 energy port in the country. We're the largest break bulk port in the country. We handle more steel than any port in the country. We have the dominant container terminal in the U.S. Gulf. And collectively, we're the largest port in the nation as far as foreign tonnage. So we're very proud of that, and it affects all of us. It's now been about 14 years, though, since the last improvements were made to the Houston Ship Channel. And we've been working diligently at the port for the last 4 years with our partners at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the future expansion needs that are rapidly upon us. But today, we all know that maintaining the efficiency of two-way traffic for the immediate and the long term is paramount. And that not just for Port Houston, but everyone on the channel. And it's certainly the top priority for us at Port Houston as a local sponsor. Now, I know they've already been recognized, but I have to say again that we're all thankful for the bold leadership of our Port Commission, led by our chairman, Janice Longoria, for their servants and guidance allows us as staff to achieve the mission and vision. This stable support of a strategic plan that helps us as employees to define what success looks like for Port Houston and the direction for achieving our vision of being America's distribution hub for the next generation. Thank you, Commission, for what you allow us to do. So as we sprint toward the finish of 2018, and man, has it gone by fast, we're proud of many record-breaking performances, and I believe wholeheartedly that the state of the Port Houston is very good. Our turn-in basin terminals have seen a solid year of handling steel and general cargo. Much of this freight, as we all know, is in direct support of the energy industry. The pipe that we receive for drilling and the project cargo to build these petrochemical plants all comes through our docks. The container activity through Barbourscut and Bayport these days is just simply phenomenal, with a total of 30% growth just in the last 3 years, and it's being driven by import demand from consumer goods from Asia, as well as the export of petrochemicals through our port in containers. At one time, I don't know what it is today, but as an order of magnitude, 1 out of every 3 containers that is exported through the Port of Houston has some type of plastic resin in it. So it's a big part of what we do. So our business environment is changing, and it's happening at a very quick pace. The production of hydrocarbons in Texas is of historic volume, and it's spurring the manufacture of these polymers. And Houston remains the dominant port of export for polyethylene around the world for the U.S. Rapid growth in our area is creating an investment in retail distribution facilities. This dictates that the future growth is going to be captive to our market. Everywhere when you drive around, you see another warehouse going up to capture this inbound cargo. The Trans-Pacific trade through the Panama Canal that has diverted from the West Coast in the last several years has chosen to remain because we are competitive and we have a productive and consistent, reliable longshore workforce. So we have that business and we're keeping it. The demand for large container vessels is growing very rapidly. Some of you know we're now seeing ships more than 9,000, a capacity of 9,000 20-foot equivalent units. All of this growth is stimulating billions of dollars in our area, and the flow of commerce is creating jobs, good jobs for people in our region. So Port Houston continues to make those investments to our terminals to continue to capture this growth. Just in 2019 alone, we have a plan to invest $287 million in our terminals, more than $900 million over the next 5 years. And all of these funds being generated by operating revenues from our public facilities. And with all this business driven through the port, our employees never lose sight of our obligation as this public entity. We remain commended every year for our financial transparency and reporting. Our small business program is well recognized and celebrated 15 years this year with more than $500 million in awards during that time. Port Houston is an environmental leader, and we are certified to the 14001 certification. Our education outreach is expanded to reach 1,300 students in maritime programs in our local high school. And our emphasis on security is a priority, as we are proud to be awarded this year the United States Coast Guard's Rear Admiral Award for Excellence in Maritime Security early this year. So I'm honored to be on the team of an exceptional staff who make things happen every day. We like to say we are ready for bigger and better things to come. So once again, please give them a hand. They're all sitting right here. I thank them. But now I want to take a moment to reflect on the legacy of a special person who has served our port for the last 16 years. And I want to start by a quick video of Janice Longoria's first meeting as chairman of Port Houston.
Call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, to the first meeting of the Port of Houston Commission for 2013. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome you in my new role as chairman of the Port of Houston Commission. We sitting at this table are stewards of their legacy and of this institution. And I'm confident that together we will work for the best interest of the institution and the economic prosperity of the region. And we're going to continue to build on the foundation laid by our predecessors. We're going to generate jobs. We're going to generate growth. And we're going to take our rightful place as the leading port in the nation. Thank you all.
So from her first meeting as chair 6 years ago, Janice established her commitment that will be her legacy. Janice, you have worked for the best interests of the institution and for the economic prosperity of the region, and we thank you for that. So just to highlight a few things before we come up here, of the many accomplishments that were achieved under your chairmanship. This has been the most significant growth period in the history of Port Houston. From 1.4 million TEU 6 years ago, almost double to 2.7 million TEU. More than 13 million TEU have passed across our docks during your tenure as chairman. Container terminals reached and surpassed the 2 million TEU mark, 20-foot equivalent unit, for the first time in a single year. And we expect that we have a chance of reaching the 3 million TEU by 2020. Container growth in annual revenue has gone from $215 million a year to $400 million a year that we're projecting for next year. And these are all public numbers, so I'm going to give them to you. Annual cash flow from $66 million to $171 million over the last 6 years, all of that cash flow is reinvested in our facilities to capture the growth. In fact, there's not been an additional bond funding since 2007. You have led the effort to self-fund the deepening and widening of the Bayport Channel and the flare, so that we would not lose container market opportunity. You were there for us after Hurricane Harvey for an efficient recovery, followed by immediate advocacy for what we need is resiliency in the channel. And during your tenure, the former cruise terminal has been successfully repurposed for handling automobiles and rolling cargo, generating net revenue and creating jobs. You've been instrumental in the expansion of both the small business and the maritime programs. Our pensions fund is as solid as ever, more than 98% funded, and your continuous engagement with the advisory council of our local stakeholders is a testament to your stewardship to the community. I could go on, but I just want to say thank you for your service and dedication to our great port. Thank you on behalf of our employees of this organization for your guidance in allowing us to do our job with enthusiasm and pride. As you committed in your first meeting as chairman, you have successfully built upon the foundation of our predecessors, generating jobs, generating growth, strengthening our rightful place as the leading port in the nation. Your influence has been remarkable, and your legacy of leadership will be engraved in the port forever. Thank you.
All right, we're moving towards the fireside chat, so let me move on. Thank you, Roger, first. Thank you for those remarks, and thank you for all that great news about the state of the port. I'd now like to introduce the chair of the board of the Greater Houston Partnership, and someone I know to be a good friend of Janice and Steve, and who's here today along with his wife, Brenda. So I'd like to introduce Mark Watts, president of the Friedkin Group, 2018 chair of the Greater Houston Partnership. Mark, would you come up and take a seat? And I'd now like to introduce the woman of the hour, Janice Longoria, chairman of the Port Commission of the Port of Houston. You've already heard a fair bit about Janice from Roger. Let me just add a word or two.
Yeah, I just want to hear what you're going to say.
I'm cutting a lot of this out. As has been mentioned, Janice has been chairman of the port since January of 2013, almost 6 years now. And what year did you join the Port Commission?
2002.
2002. And I've heard it said just today from folks around the port that you stepping into that role, already knowing the port, made a difference in terms of your effectiveness for 6 years as chairman. Janice has done a lot as port chairman, as has been mentioned. She was named the Maritime Person of the Year by the Greater Houston Port Bureau just last year in 2017. And she's a number of other accolades here. I want to acknowledge, I was joking at the VIP reception as an Aggie, that Janice bleeds orange as much as I bleed maroon, maybe more so. She's an honors graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. She got her law degree at UT, and she now serves on the Board of Regents of UT. So you don't bleed orange much more than she does. And she's now very active, including serving. You're on the MD Anderson advisory, right? Visitor.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes,
great. So let me skip all that. We want to just jump right in. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Mark as our moderator, to Janice and Roger for a little entertainment.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Janice.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bob. It's a great day for the partnership. Janice, Roger, great day for the port. I know this has been billed as a State of the Port event, but it's really just a celebration of Janice event, and well-deserved. I guess in the interest of full disclosure, Janice and I are very good friends, as Bob said. We are on the Federal Reserve Board of Houston together. We're neighbors. We're fishing buddies. So if you're expecting a hard-hitting 60-minute style interview, this is not going to be that interview. But Janice, let's just start. You've had such a wonderful tenure and stewardship over 6 years at the port. Talk about some of the things you're most proud of.
Well, I think Roger, went through a lot of what we're so proud of, but we all know as business leaders, Mark, that market certainty and stability are really the key to growing our business. And I'm very proud that over the last 6 years, we've had unprecedented stability and market certainty because of all of the investments that have been made at our truck terminals and our facilities. And so we have had that stability and market certainty. And I think even more important than that, we've restored the public's confidence and trust in the organization, who we are and what we do, so that we feel like we're in really good shape for the future.
Good. Thank you, Roger. Anything to add to that?
No, the growth of things are happening so fast these days, and planning and staying ahead of the demand curve is what we're thinking about every day. So again, we just need a little support, and we've got the horsepower to do it. So
we're all excited about the growth that you've done, historic growth and the growth yet to come. I think everyone in this room would like to hear about the port's plans to address freight mobility. That's important. People worry a bit about congestion. We don't want to swim in a sea of 18-wheelers, and I know you're taking some steps to address that. Talk about how the port is addressing those challenges.
Well, it's really important for our future that we solve the freight mobility issue, because anybody that is on either 146 or 225 will see a long parade of trucks at any given time. I mean, not congested, but there are lots of trucks that are going to our facilities. Because of our innovations at our truck gates, we're able to process, 5,000 trucks at Bayport and at Barber's Cut per day. And we have processed as many as 7,000 trucks in one day without any delays. That's remarkable. But we have to look for ways to get trucks off the highways or to provide more efficient flow of truck traffic. Perhaps that's freight corridors on some of the roadways that are more important to our facilities. We need to have the right interconnects. I do know that the state has dedicated a significant amount of funding to freight mobility and to some of these transportation networks, but in my view, it's really not enough for us to be able to plan for the future for our freight mobility. And Roger, I know that you have something to add.
We're confident what we can do as a port, getting the trucks in and trucks out. It's getting to them efficiently to where the cargo is going or where the cargo is being generated. And I like to think of it doing 2.7 million TEUs a year now. We have the ability to expand to 5 or 6 million TEUs. We have to have a freight network that supports that. Janice mentioned we've got to figure out a way to serve inland to the upper Texas region and further, and get some of this stuff on rail, and take trucks off the road. And one other thing that we've done, we've tried to encourage trucks to use the freight network during off hours. We've extended our gate hours till 11, really to no avail with not much usage. So
didn't have any demand.
It's a culture change, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
there's a lot we can do without sinking a lot of money into roads, first of all.
Yeah, extended hours sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just a question of education. Another thing I think people are thinking about in the room is, you talked about the tremendous growth in container ships. But there also is the issue of the liquid bulk traffic and whether that's somehow in conflict. I know some of our lesser competitors have been saying that just the Houston port is too crowded. And talk about what you're doing to address that and some of the concerns. I don't know if they're valid or not, but some of the concerns of the liquid bulk shippers.
Okay, so let's back up. Our competitors like to say that we're congested.
I said lesser competitors.
But we do not currently have any congestion in the Houston Ship Channel or at the Port of Houston. With that said, because of our location on the Gulf Coast, we're centrally located. We have access to 142 million consumers within 1,000 miles. Our labor certainty, all of the infrastructure that Roger has very strategically put into our container terminals and the innovations that he has put at those truck terminals to assure very rapid offloading and distribution of that cargo. We are the #1 port of choice on the Gulf Coast for container traffic, and it is growing. And our staff has done a tremendous job in developing additional Asia cargo, all water cargo through the Panama Canal into our facilities, doing a fabulous job. What that means, though, is that there may be some challenges with our channel. The size of our channel, we're 530 feet wide, need to go to 700. We have asked the Army Corps of Engineers to put that in their mega study so that our channel can be widened to accommodate safe, efficient, two-way commerce of Suezmax tankers and the post-Panamax container vessels. In the interim, until we can get that channel widened, I think that the real key is going to be for us to coordinate with the pilots. By the way, I saw the pilots here today. I'm so glad to see you. The Houston pilots are such an important partner to us at the Port of Houston. Without the Houston pilots, that port's not going to operate. And so we thank them for all of the work they do for safe and efficient movement of both container vessels and tankers. We are going to be asking the pilots, along with us and the other stakeholders, including the container vessel operators and other operators, to work with us to coordinate vessel traffic to assure that no one is impeded in their opportunity to either use or access to the channel. And Roger, you may want to...
No, that's the immediate issue needs to be taken care of, but there's a longer term issue that needs to be shorter. So we can't afford to go with the normal process with the federal government and the Corps of Engineers. We've got to take care of today, but we also got to take care of tomorrow sooner. And, I'll say they can say that about, it's a nice place to be, to be the place that is so busy that nobody wants to come there. We like being busy, but we can't be congested, and we have to keep it that way.
Talk a minute about this Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. What's right about it and what's not been right about it?
Well, Mark, the trouble is that the funds that are collected from the import cargo,
Yes.
we collect, or the government collects about $100 million in harbor maintenance tax from the import cargo, not the exports, import cargo. That goes into the general fund. Anytime you give the federal government tax money that goes into a general fund and it has to be reappropriated, unfortunately, that money is not getting back to harbor maintenance or to improvement projects of our harbors. Instead, it goes to other interests or other ways of working with the budget. We need about $60 million a year to maintain our channel at the authorized depth and authorized width. We only get back about $30 million a year. So there's a constant deficit of funding out of harbor maintenance tax funds for our needs. We have done quite a bit of work with Congress, with the United States Senate to get WRDA fixed. Hadn't been fixed yet, but we'll continue those efforts because we have to get a dedicated stream of funding out of harbor maintenance tax to solve that issue.
To change the topic, let's talk about something I think we would prefer not to think about is Hurricane Harvey. We've all talked about it a lot. At the partnership, we've been very encouraged about the progress that's been made in terms of securing funding for that. But Janice, I know we were together, during and right after the hurricane, and you were so worried about the impact on the port. And so tell us a bit about the challenges you faced then and what's being done to try to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well, I'm going to set the stage, then I'm going to ask Roger to talk about, flood mitigation efforts that would be helpful. But we didn't have any damage to our physical facilities. That's the good news. But the damage to us was really below the water. There was 6 to 10 feet of silting in the main part of the channel and at the turning basin that impeded the flow of commerce. It took the Army Corps of Engineers, what was it, Roger, a year or several months to get the impediments dredged out of the main part of the channel in order to not have restricted hours for commerce, and we just can't have that happen. Is the turning basin completed yet?
No, the turning basin's been draft restricted for
over a year.
1,400 days, not from Harvey, even before that, at the Tax Day floods and the Memorial Day floods. So it's an issue that, we need some resiliency in that in the terms of advanced maintenance, things like that. We need to be talking, and we are talking with some the county and the city on some of these plans of catching this silt that's coming out of during some of these floods before it gets into the channel. So, but we need more.
Well, if you think about it, the Houston Ship Channel is the last link of a floodplain, really. So all of that water, anytime you have a flooding event, all that water flows into Buffalo Bayou through the Houston Ship Channel out into Galveston, out in Galveston Bay and the Gulf, and so it creates a lot of impediments of silting. Roger and I have talked about his idea, and it's a really good idea, is to have advanced maintenance dredging so that we take the channel another 2 feet deeper than it ordinarily is, keep it at its authorized width, and if you have that cushion when you have a flooding event, it's not going to silt up as much on the existing material that's in the channel. So those are ways that we can do it, but we need funding. And so we look to the state, we look to the federal government to try to help us with flood mitigation projects that will help everyone. It is for the greater good.
Is it mainly just a question of funding? I mean, should we be getting our drums and picket signs and going to the Corps of Engineers and say we need the money? Is that the principal constraint?
It's always money, Mark. And because it requires a lot. And again, when you have a $30 million funding deficit just to keep your channel maintained on a yearly basis, think that continues to build. You're never at your authorized depth and width. There's material in the channel that then when you have a flooding event, additional silt gets, loaded up on that existing material. Got to clear that out, and it requires dredging funding.
Mark, it is about funding. It's a federal channel, but beating the drums not only to the federal government, but making sure the state recognizes how dependent they are on this channel, and the energy sector and the container industry and the break bulk industry. The state needs to get wound up on this thing too, for not only our port, but other Texas ports. But this port is by far the most important port to the state and arguably the nation.
Did you hear Janice say it's all about money? That's what I keep telling Brenda, so I'm glad I'm glad they got validated. One other question. At the partnership, we've really focused on workforce development, what we call Upskill Houston. I know that you spend a lot of time in sort of educating communities around the port and elsewhere about the opportunities at the port. Educate us about that.
Well, it's something that we've partnered with, with the local colleges through in the Partnership for Maritime Education. We think that if you get them young, get them in the junior highs, even in the high school, and make sure that they recognize that there are good jobs out there, I think that's critically important. It's not just longshore workers and mechanics, it's refinery workers and everybody up in the channel that certainly is dependent on the future workforce. We partner with the junior colleges and TSU and even that Maroon College down in Galveston, partner with them as well, and have a big, but I think it's important. And we also, having young kids intern at our port to make sure that we're giving them the opportunities to know what this industry is all about.
It's in our best interest to prepare the future maritime workforce. And, Dean Corgi and I talk all the time about, these maritime jobs, maritime industry jobs are good jobs. I mean, these jobs are jobs that can be intergenerational, where families can all be maritime industry workers. And it's not just working on the docks or on the ships. There are jobs in engineering, logistics, warehousing. There's so many, real estate. There's so many ways to work in the maritime industry. And so we figure if we can get kids, we have so many kids in our region that need an opportunity to get engaged with a profession that they can be interested in and that can provide for them and their families. And so if we can get those kids in middle school and get them engaged, we decided that high school might be a little bit too late, so now we've included these middle schools to get these kids engaged at an earlier age. Then if they carry that engagement through to high school, potentially to junior college or regular college, then we're golden. We are developing this workforce. And some of these kids have come back to work not only for us, but other maritime industries as they've come through our program. And Roger, I can't remember how many students we have in our program at any given time.
In the Maritime High School, 1,300 I think we have right now.
So it's a great opportunity for kids in our region to have this maritime industry opportunity.
Well, that is a wonderful, wonderful program. Well, our time here is up. Janice, it's been a real honor to be here with you and kind of celebrate your stewardship, wonderful stewardship of the port for 6 years. I know you wanted to say a few words to the group, and the Aggies will now get off the stage.
Well, thank you.
We'll see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger, thank you for your very generous words about me during his State of the Port. I did not anticipate such generous accolades about my service, but it means a lot to me. And Bob, as always, thank you to the Greater Houston Partnership for this amazing water staging. How beautiful is that? And for all the Greater Houston Partnership does to keep our region strong. Mark, Brenda, thank you for your friendship. And Mark, you volunteered a lot of time, not only on pension reform, but on TMC3, and you do a lot in your volunteer time to make our region thrive, so I want to thank you. All my friends that are here today, my gosh, Thank you for the courtesies you've extended to me during my service as chairman, and most of all, thank you for your friendship. That's something I'm going to carry with me as I move forward in my life. And yes, I'm proud that we've exceeded our goals every year I've served as chairman. But more importantly, I am so proud that we've enjoyed the unprecedented stability and market certainty, and that we've restored public confidence and trust in who we are and what we do. 6 years has evaporated, as time often does. So it's just so stunning to me that I'm standing here 6 years later giving my last State of the Port. My last and final term ends on January 31st, 2019. I am term limited. I cannot seek reappointment. In accordance with state law, my successor will be chosen through a formal process. This job, as you can see, and as you've heard from Roger and Mark, requires great skill and strategic and careful balancing of many disparate interests. There's no doubt that any successor for this post must have Port Commission experience and deep knowledge of the Port of Houston, its many stakeholders, and maritime commerce. As important, to assure that public trust is not eroded, the person must be free of the appearance of conflicts of interest. I attribute my success in restoring public confidence in the port to being free of self-interest and the appearance of conflicts. There is so much at stake for all of us. You know, the activity in industry within the Houston Ship Channel on any given day is remarkable, with new facilities coming online every year that contribute to more jobs and a stronger economy. There's no doubt that the Port of Houston is essential to our nation's energy security and the nation's economic security. People, that's something to think about, because it matters to our future and the continued growth and prosperity of our region and our state. And we all know that the goodness in our lives cannot be taken for granted, whether it's your health, your marriage, your workforce, even your freedom. It requires thoughtful attention and care on a daily basis. Balancing the interests of the Houston Ship Channel stakeholders and all the goodness that flows from our collective efforts is no different. It requires constant, deliberate focus, partnership, alignment, coordination, and goodwill. So long as we work together, we will continue to flourish. The day that we take it for granted, the day that we throw cooperation out the window and pit one interest against another, is the day that we are at peril. Let me just give you one example. Most recently, in an effort to assure cooperative alignment instead of competition for ship channel access and use, the Pilot Board created a working group of ship channel users and pilots to tackle the issue of how to safely navigate two-way traffic of vessels that exceed a combined length that potentially limits traffic to daylight hours and one-way traffic. We try to be strategic and proactive, and so we're working with our largest petrochemical partners and also with the pilots to coordinate the use of the channel by both post-Panamax container vessels and Suezmax tankers. We want to avoid the potential issue of one-way traffic that could impede the important growth of petrochemical exports. It could also potentially contribute to the perception of congestion that will drive business elsewhere, and nobody wants that. We have too much invested in our facilities and in the industry along the Houston Ship Channel to take that risk. So, we at the Port of Houston Authority will work tirelessly to assure that the petrochemical industry is not impeded in its opportunity to efficiently export rapidly growing supplies of crude, liquids, and other petrochemical products produced from our very prolific shale plays, including the Permian Basin, the Bakken, and others, that are all headed to the Central Gulf Coast in hugely growing volumes for processing and export. Now, these volumes
that are being sent to our area for processing and export will secure our nation's place as the #1 producer in the world. There's no doubt about that. It will also secure Port Houston's place as the most productive port in the nation. And as you will read in my message in the most recent annual report, it is important to widen our channel to accommodate ever larger vessels for both efficiency and safety. However, pending widening, we are dedicated to coordinating our efforts with the assistance of the pilots so that the petrochemical industry has access to the channel during daylight hours without the potential negative impact of one-way traffic. With that said, turnabout is fair play. They in turn have listened to us and are keenly aware of the importance of our business to our consumer base of 142 million within 1,000 miles, to our labor partners, to the many corollary industries that depend upon our growth, such as trucking, logistics, warehousing, and distribution, and to the millions of jobs created from the growing container industry that includes both imports and exports. We cannot turn away the larger vessels that are calling on our facilities. A widened ship channel will permanently cure the potential pitfalls of daylight restrictions and one-way commerce. This, of course, will work to benefit the rapidly growing petrochemical industry and all the volumes that are being exported. Our private industry partners are also keenly aware, as we are, of the frustration of leaving this in the hands of the government. Glacially slow to move, routinely fails to dedicate funding for channel improvements and maintenance. You all know me. You know that I am an optimist to my core. If that's one thing you can say about me, it is that. So with unrelenting optimism, my trust in all that's good, I am confident that together, working with the pilots, our interests, petrochemical industry, container industry, together we can hone an interim strategy of coordination to avoid congestion and one-way traffic, and then a strategy to widen our channel quickly and efficiently as a permanent fix for the greater good. You know, this one example demonstrates the importance of partnership, and you know, Bob, you and I talk about that all the time. Working together in goodwill, balancing our interests and theirs, not sacrificing one for the other, but working together to find common solutions for these channel issues in harmony with our mutual interests. I want to thank in advance our petrochemical partners, including Enterprise Products, Kinder Morgan, and Targa, and of course the Houston pilots, who are so important to our commerce, for helping us coordinate these important efforts. So long as we continue to plan together and work together, there is no problem that is too large to solve. You know, I've had my share of challenges and setbacks. Everybody in this room has had challenges and setbacks. On the other hand, I have had more than my share of goodness and blessings. I consider serving the maritime industry, serving as your port chairman, to be evidence of some of the great goodness and blessing in my life. And it has been my pleasure to contribute to the growth of our organization and the maritime industry. I could not be more proud of what we have done together. Commissioners, commission chairmen come and go. It's not about the individual that holds the office, it's about the office and the good that can come from that office. I believe that it's important for any official, whether elected or appointed, to have a positive impact and to leave a worthwhile imprint. That we were here not for the glory of the position or the adulation or the celebrity or personal gain, but instead for the betterment of our region, the lifting of our industry and our people, and the greater good. I have done my best to contribute to these lofty goals. If you miss me, I am highly complimented. If you remember me, my legacy shines. If you emulate me, I have done my job and done it well. So, my friends, thank you from the bottom of my heart for this great honor. I am leaving this post
but not public service, my talents and energy will be well invested. Let's all practice every day to rise above the fray, think only good about each other, and remember that we are stronger together than we are apart. God bless the Houston Ship Channel, everyone in this room, and all friends absent. Thank you.
It's fine. Well, stay where you are for just a moment, because I want to present Janice with I will say a small token. It's a heavy token of our appreciation. Janice, thank you so much for your service for 6 years as chair of the Port Houston. We've enjoyed working with you. I know we'll see you again in another civic role here soon, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. See you at the next event.